Dr. Eldada, welcome. Very glad to have you here. And maybe you could just tell us a little bit about Quanergy, what this company is doing, the technology, and its impact on people.
Well, Quanergy does LiDAR. LiDAR is a 3D laser-based sensor. It enables awareness. Any application where being aware of what's going on around you is useful can use LiDAR. We identified so far about 40 different applications, and we bucket them into four pillars: automotive or transportation, broadly defined; security, industrial automation, and 3D mapping.
Okay, and in terms of, so everyone hears about the autonomous vehicles and so forth. So the LiDAR sensors market has been evolving very quickly. Could you just tell us a little bit about the applications as it's been used in automotive, and most recently, in addition to automotive, you guys have been in the news a little bit for some virtual fencing applications as well. So maybe you could share a little bit about those.
By far, the two sectors that are the largest for us, revenue-wise, are the transportation space and the security space. Transportation includes cars, trucks, trains, any kind of vehicle. It might be a mining, an agricultural vehicle, and the infrastructure that goes with them, the roads, the railways, and so on. Security applications include everything from smart homes, smart buildings, smart cities, all the way to smart borders. And that's what's been in the news lately. We are really recommending a virtual wall between US and Mexico, and really for any border application, which can be any good old-fashioned, chain link fence, but with the smart LiDARs on it, and that makes it a huge wall. That makes it 200 meter tall, 200 meter deep on each side, with the brains, right? It can detect, classify objects, study the behavior of objects, predict intent of people well before there's a situation that has to be dealt with. And all of that can be communicated in real time to the patrol agents so that they can intercept someone who might be trying to scale a fence.
Yeah, that's great. And then in terms of automotive, obviously there's been a lot of traction there. That's probably the hottest area that people hear about when it comes to LiDAR. Maybe you can shed a little bit more light on that.
Everyone agrees that LiDAR is the most capable sensor for automotive applications. Everyone without any exception. And this does include Elon Musk. Anytime Elon Musk says you don't really need LiDAR, it's too good for the job, or it's too expensive to actually do the job at hand, he's referring to the fact that historically LiDARs have been expensive. They cost $80,000 to $80,000 to $200,000. With that in mind, you could try to get away with the whole suite of advanced radar and cameras and other sensors. Even he never said that LiDAR is not the best sensor. Now, with us making solid-state LiDAR based completely on silicon CMOS, and allowing that to be very low cost because it's just silicon CMOS, and allowing it to have very high performance, very long range, high resolution, high accuracy, and having it be as reliable as it gets. It's just silicon. We basically changed the paradigm, and everyone is adopting LiDAR now for automotive applications.
Yeah, it's definitely a very fast evolving market. So how do you see this market as it stands today, the LiDAR sensor market, and how do you see that evolving over the next 4 or 5 years?
People talk about different levels of automation, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Level 1 is really basic automation, and most vehicles have even more than level 1 automation today. Level 2, all the lane keeping, adaptive cruise control, automated parking. You can buy that's level 2 already, and you can buy that in vehicles. And LiDAR can be used for level 2 automation because it's very low cost. The way we the way we made it low cost. Now, in our opinion, there will not be level 3 automation. We're going to skip level 3, go straight to level 4. Level 3 means that the car 80% of the time is driving for you and very frequently asks you to take over. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. When you're distracted and you're asked to suddenly take over because something came up that the vehicle cannot deal with, you are not going to be able to concentrate on the situation, realize what's going on, and react in time. So we think level 3 will not happen. We're going to skip from level 2 to level 4. Level 4, the vehicle does all the driving, but you still have a driver in the driver's seat, just in case. Level 5 is when a vehicle can pick you up without a human being in it. You can actually take a nap in the back and so on. Level 5 is a bit further out. So we're supporting immediately level 2 and in the very near term, level 4.
So yeah, level 5 sounds great, right? You can just read the newspaper on the way to work. Maybe in terms of predictions, maybe you can share with us what you see as the potential timeline. When will we see the availability of vehicles on the road?
Rideshare companies, the Ubers, the DDs, the Karims of the world, they will use only level 5. They're trying to get the driver out of the equation, and it has to be level 5. So they will do essentially some pilot programs and so on, and then nothing deployed really commercially till level 5 is ready, both technically and in terms of regulation. So level 5, in our opinion, might happen as late as 2025, but who knows, it might happen 2023, but not much sooner. Level 4 will happen as early as late next year, late 2018.
That's great. Yeah, I want to jump back to the sensor itself a bit. As it's more rare these days to see unicorns that are hardware focused or based, and so having reached that status, I'm curious about how you see Quanergy. Do you see yourself as a sensor company long term? Are you focused on leadership in this kind of hardware and that part of the technology? Or do you see yourselves going deeper into software and analytics and some of the related applications down the road? Just be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Definitely the latter. There's no doubt that hardware is our core technology that caused us to exist and is the core of the company. But at this point already we have more software engineers than hardware engineers. And that's going to continue, and we are going into applications, full system solutions, and big installations. The hardware is key, but it's not sufficient. So we have basically hardware, software, systems, and data services.
In terms of just going back to the technology a little bit, so the sensor market has been evolving. LiDAR is getting more widely used because also prices are coming down to a degree where some of the automakers can expect it, or still align it with their own business models. While LiDAR is known as one of the most powerful sensors, one of the perceived or known or perceived challenges of LiDAR has been its performance in either fog or rainy conditions.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about what you've done in different scenarios to mitigate that or balance that with other sensors, or what the strategy has been generally for Quanergy.
It takes the suite of sensors to make an autonomous vehicle. The question is, which sensor is the primary sensor? We're always going to have some number of radar. We are integrating video with LiDAR.
We'll ask the audience if there's any questions from the audience, if you'd like to ask Dr. Eldada. Yeah, go ahead.
What inspired you to leave your decent paying job to start your own?
Luck played a part. I was lucky that when I was doing my PhD and DARPA came to my PhD advisor, and who was part of the team who invented the phased array radar at MIT Lincoln Lab. They came to him 30 years later and they told him, we want to do this in the optical domain. I was starting my PhD, and he told me, Louay, that's your PhD. So I did optical phase arrays for my PhD because it was handed to me. With that being really luck, now after the DARPA Grand Challenge and so on, clearly the biggest need was for LiDAR, because people were using $80,000 LiDARs, and they were mechanical, and the mean time between failure was about 1,000 hours of operation at most, and so on. That was unacceptable, too expensive, not reliable enough, and I figured I've done this for my PhD 23 years ago back then, so 27 years ago now. So I decided the time is right, I have a unique background, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to do what is seen as a risk. I don't see it as a risk. I believe in it, I know I'm going to do it, and it's going to happen. It's just that the timing, everything came together. My background, my understanding of what the market needs, and validating that by talking to customers, getting lots of VOC, voice of the customer, talking to lots of car makers, and everyone saying, oh, of course we would use LiDAR if it was affordable and reliable. And I figured, that's something I know how to do. So quitting my job was an easy decision for me. Yeah.
Great, yeah, go ahead.
Do you have any OEM relationships established currently? And what do you think about the path of eventually one of these companies is likely to want to buy you as opposed to anything else?
I don't mind personal questions. That got very personal now. That got too personal. Well, so I'll answer the first part. There are about 30 car companies in the world. If you include, all the Chinese companies and all the newcomers, basically, if you include, Faraday Future and Lucid and so on, all the new companies, as opposed to the traditional, 15, there's about 30 now. Of those 30, we're working with 28. So we have relationships with 28. It's the ones that gave us the okay to mention their names publicly are Mercedes-Benz, Renault, Nissan, Hyundai, Kia. And it's also public information that Daimler, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz, is an investor in Quanergy. So we have very close relationships with the OEMs, with most of them. I can only mention these three. And the reason they are very close to us and they invested in us, they work closely with us, is because nobody else has a solution that's even close to what we have. If you look at the LiDAR need as one where you have to deliver performance, range, resolution, accuracy, field of view, reliability, at least 15,000 hours mean time between failure in terms of hours of operation, and cost. Ultimately, you have to get down to $100. Not a single LiDAR maker can meet all three, and some don't meet any of the three.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thanks. Great story. It seems there's even way beyond the current applications for data, silicon photonics in data, and where does that fit in your grand dream scheme of vision?
That's the ultimate punchline. Yeah, I mean that's really the ultimate goal, and that's gonna be the revenue stream that's gonna dwarf all other revenue streams. We're collecting some highly actionable data, 3D centimeter accurate global map that's updated daily and in color, where everything is annotated. That's highly actionable and valuable. That's one of the data sets that we are building in the cloud with constant refresh.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, thank you. Can you clarify what is the advantage of level 4 over level 2 if the passenger has still to sit behind the driver's seat? And my other question was, You mentioned you offer the software, but then you also mentioned you're working with OEMs who will actually offer mobility as a service.
Right.
So how do you think about these strategic options available to the whole ecosystem, and what software player would you become if the OEMs are also offering mobility?
That's a good point. We do develop the whole software stack, but each OEM tells us, hand me over the data up to this layer in the stack and I'll take it over. And up to which layer in the stack we hand over to each OEM varies by OEM. Someone like Daimler might have very high confidence in their own software, and we might hand over the data after maybe the object list. Somebody else who is trying to catch up might ask us to give them the full stack solution. It varies from OEM to OEM. Yeah.
And what is the advantage of level 4?
Level 4. Level 2 is really what you have today. Lane keeping, adaptive cruise control, automated parking and so on. With LiDAR, you would be able to do it in a more robust way, even when there is no ambient lighting and so on. Level 4, the car completely drives itself, except that you are there for some very unlikely events. So level 4, the car drives itself 99.999% of the time. Level 3, it will be 80%. That's not helpful enough.
I was wondering if you could just wavelength that you're operating at, and
You bet.
perhaps the detection.
A 905 nanometer, so we can keep it in silicon. Silicon stops detecting at 1100. We want to keep it in silicon. Transmit in silicon, receive in silicon, process in silicon. It's all silicon CMOS. So we have to keep it below a micron, not 1550. And the reason we can do it, while some companies have to go to 1550 to make it eye safe, we make it eye safe by having a very small spot that hops around about 1 million times per second to cover the scene. Others who use the flash LiDAR approach, they illuminate the entire scene with one big beam that's intense. And for that to be eye safe, they have to go to 1550 nanometer, in which case they have to go to 3-5 compound semiconductors on the detection side, which is about 1,000 times more expensive than silicon. Which is why, and it's the type that's used for airplane surveying, that's why they cost $100,000 to $200,000, while ours cost $100 to $1,000, depending on which type and what model.
As far as your penetration in the industrial automation market, how far along are you?
We are actually quite far along in industrial automation. We have signed a partnership with a leader in the space, and we will be announcing that very soon.
I was working on that back in '95 for that market, so I'd love to chat with you.
Okay, great. So I think that's all the time we have for today, and you're welcome to speak more after the talk. So let's all just thank Dr. Eldada for joining.